Hello, welcome to our webinar for EESS consultants. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about the Electrical Equipment Safety System, or the EESS, or the EESS, some people say. It's a platform that helps keep Australians and New Zealanders safe when using electrical equipment. I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself and a few others assisting in this webinar. I'm Carl Porritt, Director of Equipment Safety of the Electrical Safety Office, and I'm joined by Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah, the Customer Service Officer.
And Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm the Policy Officer.
You might know them if you contacted the support desk for the EESS platform. I'll be handing over to Hannah and Amanda a little later in the session. Firstly, we respectfully acknowledge the First Nations people in the state of Queensland. We acknowledge the cultural and spiritual connection that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have with the land and sea. We respectfully acknowledge Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people as two unique and diverse peoples with their own rich and distinct cultures. We pay our respects to elders past, present, as well as the existing and emerging leaders who walk together in partnership on this journey. We'll talk about the EESS framework, demonstrate some key platform functionality, and provide you with some information about the latest platform updates. If you have any questions, please pop them into the live chat and our team will answer them as we go. This webinar is aimed at those who have set themselves up as consultants in the EESS platform. Did you know that until recently, we weren't able to identify members of this group? With the new platform, we can now communicate with you from time to time on matters that may assist your clients complying with EESS requirements. We know that a large focus of your work is getting certificates for your clients so they can sell to the Australian or New Zealand markets. However, the EESS is a different approach, changing the focus from the certificate holder to the Australian responsible supplier. The EESS outlines the requirements for registrations of responsible suppliers of household electrical equipment in a centralised national register. We hope the information shared today will help you understand what the EESS is and how you can assist suppliers of household electrical equipment into Australia. So how did we get here? As early as the 1940s, a certificate was required before a manufacturer could sell household electrical appliances in Australia. If you think of that old ceramic electric jug with the live electrodes wrapped around a porcelain biscuit sticking into the water, the water's live at 240 volts. That item required the manufacturer to hold a certificate prior to sale. That scheme was still in place when I started working in this industry in the late 1980s. I remember once I had a problem with an electric oven. I found the brand and model and approval number on the back of the oven. I went to the filing cabinet, pulled out a large file, had a look at the paperwork, and then drove down the road to the manufacturer. I was able to speak to the engineer and sort things out. Fast forward 10 years, and I found myself in a similar position. But the approval number on this piece of equipment wasn't one of ours, nor was held by another regulator. It was issued by a private certifier. So I had to contact them by phone, ask for the details, and then I discovered that it was held by an overseas company. I wrote a letter to that company, and about 6 weeks later, I got my envelope back unopened, returned to sender. And as a regulator, this makes my job very difficult. So things had to change. Time to time, we need to speak to the person responsible for the product causing issues. Someone we can identify and speak to here where we live. And that's fundamentally what the EESS is about. It brings responsibility closer to home. Certificates are important, but the focus is on connecting people to ensure the common goal of only safe consumer electrical goods are available in our communities. We need to identify those in the supply chain, particularly those responsible for bringing in the equipment and therefore the risk, into Australia. Regulators need to speak to someone to resolve questions and issues they have with electrical equipment sold to the market. Yes, sometimes it's the manufacturer here or in New Zealand, but more often the case these days it's an importer. That's the responsible supplier, that's who that is. With the EESS, we now have the foundation on which we have built a live register of responsible suppliers and the in-scope electrical equipment they sell and are accountable for. The EESS platform is that register, and when the responsible supplier registers, they are authorised to apply the regulatory compliance mark, which we'll discuss later, to their product, and they declare they are in compliance with the EESS regulations. Consultants play a vital role in helping certificate applicants and/or responsible suppliers navigate these regulations in order to bring their product to market. By understanding the EESS requirements, you can better service your clients in this respect. Let's talk about the framework in more detail. The EESS introduces features we need to solve several issues. Firstly, it allows us to trace a piece of equipment. We need to know about the equipment, where and how it's sold. For example, while we want to know the source, we also want to know if other companies are selling the same product under a different brand. After all, there can be multiple importers bringing in the same equipment. Power supplies are a good example, where there are often multiple suppliers sourcing the same product from an overseas manufacturer. The EESS means we can more effectively track where equipment originates, and it also captures information about that equipment that lets us identify it in the market. It requires the responsible supplier to make declarations that they have evidence on hand to prove that the equipment meets the relevant electrical equipment safety standard that regulators can check, and that's all about protecting the consumer. Unfortunately, the old system lacked a central place for us to keep all this information. Having one central registration system that all the different parties can access and have input into benefits everybody. Regulators have deeper access to monitor and enforce safety laws, but others have access too. Certifiers can upload their certificate details to enable responsible suppliers to link to that certificate. Responsible suppliers have access to register themselves and their in-scope electrical equipment, but now they benefit from being able to better manage their own information, such as seeing all their own certificates and registrations in one spot, seeing expiry dates, getting reminders to renew, or a warning that the plug and cord certificates may be nearing expiry. We recognise consultants as part of the process and their involvement in getting electrical equipment into households in Australia and New Zealand. And consumers can also dive deeper if they want to do some research into the household appliance they may be planning to buy. So, the equipment that needs to be registered is the higher risk stuff. It's categorised as level 3 and level 2. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute. It's all centred around being listed by the brand and model. That's why it's critical that registrations clearly list each brand and model correctly. And finally, the Regulatory Compliance Mark, or the RCM. The EESS is helping industry by having fewer approval marks. Before, if the approval number changed, suppliers had to remake labels, change embossing tools, etc. But under the EESS, the responsible supplier is authorised to apply the Regulatory Compliance Mark, the RCM. It's one mark, it doesn't change, saving industry time and money. The RCM will also help the consumer identify products that are claimed to be compliant with safety standards and to the Australian electrical safety laws. You can see the Regulatory Compliance Mark now on your screen. We'll be telling consumers to look for this symbol before making a purchase. If an in-scope product doesn't have that mark, well, it's an indication that the product doesn't comply with EESS and the supplier isn't following the law, and therefore consumers can make their own choice. The EESS is a much more dynamic system where we can balance the regulatory requirements against risk. In the old scheme, an equipment type was either on the list or off the list, and to get that on the list, you had to coordinate 7 governments to change their legislation at once. This took a lot of time and effort. The EESS puts things back into the regulator's hands to dynamically assess the risk of a product. Understandably, the higher the risk, the more stringent the requirements. So, for level 3, you need independent accredited test reports assessed by one of the authorised recognised external certification schemes, or RECs we call them. The equipment needs to be registered and marked with the RCM. For level 2, a slightly lower risk, it's mandatory to hold a compliance folder which holds the test reports, instructions, manuals, schematics, etc. that needs to be able to be produced to a regulator within 10 days upon request. And for level 1, the responsible supplier simply needs to have evidence, provided in English, to demonstrate that the equipment meets the relevant standard and that they can produce that evidence upon request. Level 1 equipment does not need to be registered as such, but does need to be marked with the RCM. As mentioned, the certificate is mandatory for level 3 and not mandatory for levels 1 and 2. However, sometimes it's easier and more convenient to have a certificate of suitability for level 1 and 2. It can make registration that little bit quicker. However, just be aware that if you use a certificate of suitability to register level 1 and 2, when you wish to add a model or trade name, you must get the certificate updated before you can register. And of course, the whole EESS, as we mentioned before, is about household electrical equipment that's in scope. And it's not just the appliances in the home, it can be safety switches in the switchboard, the wiring behind the walls. That's still electrical equipment in the home, so that's captured. But a commercial oven in a bakery, well, it's clearly commercial and it's not captured by the EESS. And the EESS is also about the whole supply chain. So it's not just about the importer or manufacturer. There's still requirements around those further down the supply chain, such as the retailer here in Australia or New Zealand. For example, the retailer needs to purchase from a registered responsible supplier, and they must ensure that the product does have the RCM, or else they can't sell the product. There's an expectation of ongoing compliance, that the equipment is not just pre-market checked, but that the responsible supplier has quality assurance in place to ensure that the product continues to meet those requirements on an ongoing basis. To ensure this, we have inspectors out there auditing in-scope equipment being sold in the market. All right, I'm going to hand over now to Hannah and Amanda, who will show us how to use the Electrical Equipment Safety System platform.
Today we're going to show you a few of the main features and processes to help you learn how to use the EESS platform as a means of managing EESS requirements. We'll start with navigating the homepage. We'll assume you've onboarded to the platform, however, just to be clear, there are different functions available for a consultant. There are 2 permissions that can be selected as a consultant. Limited consultants can only work on cases that have been assigned to them. When your client has opened a case, they'll need to select actions, then assign the case to the limited consultant. They can then search your consultant business name, select the details from the drop-down and submit. You will then be assigned to the case and can complete it on their behalf. Full consultants can initiate and manage certificate and equipment registrations on behalf of the client. Your client can also assign a case to a full access consultant by selecting actions, reassign case, and search by your name or email address. Select from the drop-down menu and select create. The case will then be assigned to you to complete. Each responsible supplier or certificate applicant can only have one full access consultant and infinite limited access consultants. You and your client can toggle the access through their My Organisation page.
Changing consultant type. You can change your consultant's role to do equipment registrations and/or certificate applications. Noting the certificate application menu is only available for applications made to Energy Safe Victoria. To edit this, go to your My Organisation page, click on the Change Consultant Type, and make your selection, then submit. You may need to refresh your browser, but you should then be able to access the certificate and registration menu according to your selections.
Each time you log into the platform, you will be brought to the home page. You will see your name, business details, and role on the platform. The My Request section will show any in-progress applications assigned to you that relate to your internal operation. For example, if you open a case to update your personal or business details, it will appear in this section. Every application in the platform will generate a case ID, which is used to identify the specific application. My Applications will display any in-progress applications that relate to your equipment registrations and certificates, such as equipment renewal or new certificate applications. On the left panel, you will see Global Search, Equipment Certification, Equipment Registration, Home page, My Organisation page, Reports, Search, and Payment Card. Global Search can be used to search case ID numbers to take you directly to the application. The Equipment Certification menu is only available if your consultant type is set to manage certificate applicants. Under Equipment Certification, you'll see additional actions for certificates issued by ESV, OTR, and ESO only. Please note, ESO are currently not accepting applications. The Equipment Registration menu is only available if your consultant type is set to manage responsible suppliers. Under the Equipment Registration menu, the options are New Equipment Registration, Modify, and Renew.
Next on the left panel is My Organisation. This is the main area where you can go for details on your consultant account. You will be able to see your business details and your organisation's role in the EESS platform. You will also see buttons to invite team members and change consultant type. Scrolling down the My Organisation page are additional tabs. My Team Members displays the organisation's team members and their roles, displays linked organisations and their permissions such as responsible suppliers and certificate applicants. My Team Applications shows your team members' applications. Manufacturers shows your team members' applications. Documents. This is where you view all declarations and receipts. Reports. In this section, you can generate reports relating to your equipment registrations and certificates. To view available reports, select All Reports. If your consultant type manages both a responsible supplier and a certificate applicant, you will be able to generate a report for equipment registration expiring in 3 months for consultants and certificates expiring in selected time periods.
The search function is an internal search only for your clients' registrations and certificates in their company name. The search function is a separate pop-up used to search equipment registrations and certificates associated with their business. Under Equipment Registrations tab, you can search by equipment number, model, trade name, and certificate number. Under the Certificates tab, you can search by certificate number, model, and trade name. You will not be able to view equipment registrations that are not registered to your responsible supplier account, or certificates where they are not certificate applicant. After completing the relevant search fields, you'll be able to open the equipment registration or certificate by clicking the hyperlink. The details will load on the main screen. Tip: the search screen often is full screen, so you have to minimise and make sure you go back to the main screen to see the search result. Next, we'll go to Payment Card. In the payment cart section, you can view current and historical payment carts and legacy registration payments. The benefits of the payment cart is that it allows you to add multiple equipment registrations and pay once, rather than paying for each registration. It also allows you to transfer the payment cart to another team member to pay if desired. Note, you can only have one active payment cart open at any one time. After adding a case to the payment cart, you can click the payment cart number hyperlink to open the cart and proceed with payment. The payment cart will initially display with the details screen showing the case or cases added. To proceed, select Go. Under the Manage section, you will be able to remove cases from the cart and review the items added. Once you are happy with the cases, select Checkout. Please note, once you have proceeded to checkout, you cannot edit the payment cart. You will then need to select your payment method. At this stage, you can also assign the payment cart to your client if they are required to make payment. To do this, select Actions and Payment Transfer. You can then search their details and press Submit. To select your payment method, you can choose from BPoint for credit card and debit card or BPay for bank transfer from Australian banks only. Please note, once BPay is selected, you cannot change the payment method. Once you have selected your payment method, select Submit. For BPoint, you will need to add your card details and select Pay. It will then proceed to the next window to submit the application. For BPay, the payment details will be available to complete the transaction through your bank. BPay payments may take up to 3 business days to resolve and can only be completed through Australian bank accounts. Once the payment cart has resolved, an email will be sent with the relevant declarations and receipt of payment. On the left panel, you will also notice a few extra icons in the bottom section of the tab. Notifications, Recents, Help, Your Profile. This is where you can manage your notification preferences, learn more about this application. My Profile, where you can also view and edit your profile and change your password, and Log Off.
Now we have registering equipment. As a consultant, you can complete your equipment registrations on behalf of your responsible supplier. A certificate applicant only does not have access to this menu. To register equipment in the EESS platform, go to the left panel and select Equipment Registration, then New. A new application will generate. Each time a new case is generated, you will be provided with a unique case ID number which is used to identify the application. On the left of the application, you will notice an Actions menu where you can withdraw and assign the application to another user, the status, who has created and updated the application, the Details tab where you will enter the registration data, and the Audit tab where you can see the history of the application. On the Details tab, you will see breadcrumbs which display the progress of the application. In the current stage, you will need to search your responsible supplier's details and select from the drop-down list. You can save your progress at any time or press Continue to proceed to the next stage. Under Registration Details, there are 2 options to choose from. If you have a current certificate of conformity or level 3 equipment, select I will be linking to a certificate. If you are registering level 1 or 2 equipment with a certificate of suitability, you can also choose this option. Please note the certificate must be issued by one of the recognised external certifiers or Energy Safe Victoria and uploaded to the EESS platform. By linking the registration to a certificate, most of the information will be pre-filled into the application. If you are registering level 1, 2 or not in scope equipment on the platform, select I will not be linking to a certificate. You will need to enter the equipment details manually. To register with a certificate, search the certificate number and select it from the drop-down list. Select Retrieve to engage the certificate details into the application. Select Continue. Under Equipment Details, you will see the equipment family details, nameplate, and product examples and equipment profiles, which have been pre-filled with the information. In this stage, you will need to select the equipment profiles or individual models and trade names that apply to the equipment your client is selling. Each profile is based by the input ratings of the equipment and will display the corresponding model and trade name for that profile. You expand the profile to show all models and trade names in that rating. By selecting All, this will select all profiles and will include all models and trade names in each profile. Alternatively, you can select individual profiles or individual models and trade names. When you are happy with your selection, continue to the next stage. If you have a component certificate that you would like to include in the registration, you can add this here by selecting Add Component and retrieving the certificate details. If you don't need to add any information, select Continue. Under Compliance Details, you can add the location of your compliance folder and test reports and supporting documents. This information is not available to the public when the registration is created. Then continue to the next stage. You will then need to review and tick the declaration to continue to review the equipment registration details. In the review section, you can choose a release date, which will mean your equipment registration details won't be available on the public search until that date. You will need to select your equipment registration length. Please consider the certificate expiry date when selecting the equipment registration length, as the registration cannot exceed the certificate expiry date. If you recall from earlier, a certificate is not mandatory for Level 1 or 2. If you wish to register Level 1 or 2 without a certificate, select I will not be linking to a certificate. You then need to select the equipment level as Level 2, Level 1, or not in scope. You will need to manually fill in the equipment registration details, such as equipment type, tick the equipment is compliant, and select or add the relevant standards. On the next stage, you can select the equipment family details as required and add product and nameplate examples. You will then need to add equipment profiles. If you have multiple profiles, models, and trade names, you can bulk upload these details by using the bulk upload Excel spreadsheet template. To add manually, select Add Equipment Profile. Same as certificate, each profile is determined by the input rating. You will need to add the model and trade names that correspond with that rating. For example, if I am selling ABC1, ABC2, and ABC3 under trade name 1, I would enter like this, and it would then display on this profile. In this second profile, I sell model DEF1, but under both trade name 1 and trade name 2. I would enter it like this. Once happy with the selection, you can continue to add component certificates if required, or continue to add manufacturer details. If you have previously added a manufacturer, you can search them in the list, or alternatively, add a new manufacturer to the list. Continue to add the compliance details, tick the declaration, and review your equipment registration. Level 1 equipment will automatically have a registration length of 1 year, and there is no regulatory fee. Level 2 can be registered for 1, 2, or 5 years. Once happy with all of your details, select Create and add it to the payment cart. A regulatory fee is required for Level 2.
Thanks Hannah, Amanda, for taking us through those demonstrations. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat box. I'd like to discuss some new features that have been added to the EESS. Consultants at this stage don't see them, but the responsible suppliers and certificate holders will see some new tabs on their My Organisation page. These are aimed to help the responsible suppliers mainly keep abreast of electrical safety matters relevant to them. The first tab was Associated Incident. From time to time, regulators may have cause to investigate a matter and may prepare an incident report. This report may be shared with the responsible supplier if their equipment is involved. The next one is Associated Check Testing. The EESS regulators purchase product from the market from time to time and have it tested to the Australian standards. If your client's equipment is selected and tested, upon completion, they'll receive a notice here. We next have Associated Decisions. As regulators make decisions regarding electrical equipment types from time to time, such as the information bulletins published on the EESS website, where these may relate to the equipment type supplied by the responsible supplier or certificate applicant, they may receive information in this tab. And general alerts. These are more broader type messages, such as recent notice of fee increases, etc. Amanda, Hannah and I will now go through some frequently asked questions you might have on your mind. Firstly, I'm trying to register a new appliance for my client using a certificate of conformity I obtained. But when I enter the certificate number, it's asking me for an access token. What's that, Amanda?
An access token is a password the certificate applicant or holder has created to lock their certificate from being used. It is expected that you will have a working relationship with the certificate applicant or holder, and as such, you should be able to ask them for the password. Some certificate applicant or holders do not bother entering an access token. In those cases, the platform won't ask for the token.
Next question. Is an invoice sent for renewal? Hannah?
The authorised officer will get a reminder 30 days out, then 7 days out, and on the day that their account is due to expire. There is no advance invoice sent. Only the authorised officer can renew the account. They'll need to log into the platform and navigate to the My Organisation page. They should see a green Renew button, follow the process, update their details and add it to the payment cart. At the payment cart, they can reassign it to someone else in their team to pay, or can pay immediately by BPoint using a credit card. Or if they are an Australian company, they can pay by BPay. BPay is limited to Australian companies due to the limitation of the banking system, not the EESS. Once the payment has been made, they are emailed a receipt and the receipt is also filed in their account under Documents.
Thanks, Hannah. The next question. I've been told knowing the business ID is important. Where do I find it? Amanda?
The certificate applicant's business ID is an important identifier when you apply for a certificate. Their business ID now shows in a number of places. It is on the home screen near their name in the green banner, and it is on the top of their My Organisation page. It will be a field on the certificate details when viewed in the EESS platform. Note, their business ID will only show properly when onboarded into the EESS platform. If they cannot see their business ID, it may mean they have a legacy account. If they need to complete their onboarding, click on the Learning Guides link in the EESS website and check out steps 1 to 3. Each time they apply for a certificate, they will need to give the certifier their business ID.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Hannah. We've discussed where the need for the EESS came from and at a high level what the EESS involves. We've demonstrated navigating the platform and how to do an equipment registration. We hope this has proved useful. We've certainly packed a lot in this webinar, but there's so much more to share. We understand some people only use the EESS platform occasionally, so hopefully this material proves helpful. Thank you to all those who have left a comment or question in the chat box, and we hope our team have been able to answer all those questions. We'll be creating more content soon, such as explainer videos, which will be available on the EESS website. In the meantime, we've updated that website's FAQs, so please take a few moments to check those out. We'll be seeking your feedback about today's webinar, so please help us to help you by letting us know what you thought and what you want to see more of, so we can create more content that meets your needs. We hope you've gained a better understanding of how the EESS platform can empower you to manage all your EESS regulatory obligations in one place. Thank you all again for joining, and importantly for being an active contributor to our electrical safety community.